Welcome to another episode, Keeping It Orange and Blue. I'm Ryan Evan with my buddy Kevin Ducey, joined as always here. Tonight we have another special guest, one we had about 2 months ago. A lot's happened. What's up, Dre Gibbs Lawhorn?
What's good? How y'all doing?
Doing great, buddy. Glad to see you again, man. First things first, like, did you get some paella? You get some food over there? What was Spain like, my man?
For sure. I'm not too big fan of the food over there, but the paella did match the paella.
All right, nice.
Interesting.
How's the basketball?
Basketball was amazing, you know. You couldn't ask going 3-0 with the guys to those 5 plus victories. So that's where, it was great basketball. It was great to get acclimated.
So Dre, what was the biggest thing that you took away from? What was the biggest thing that you took away from that trip? Maybe not necessarily sights that you got to see or food that you tasted, or what was it you took away maybe from your game, playing against some professionals, guys that probably some of them 10, 12 years older than you, and been and experienced guys. What would you take away from that?
Probably just the physics. You always got to be moving. After shape. That's one thing I realized about being out there is being is probably how I'm going to see more success in college in general.
So would you say that's one of the things that was a little bit different from a practice atmosphere to a game atmosphere is how much you're being asked to move off the ball, especially on offense?
I'd say so. I'd say so. I'm going to the game thinking it was going to be like that. I was thinking it was, but I feel like as soon as I get faster off my feet and defense, everything is going to be fine.
What do you think that trip did for you guys is like team unity wise? Do you think, that was a great bonding experience, or are you worried, or do you think was everybody there like on a business trip, or do you think maybe it was just too much all at once, with the maybe possible jet lag or whatever? Do you think, or do you feel like you guys gained a whole lot from going out there?
I think gained just the experience going out there in the country, and then for the team, for guys like me and Armani, for us to go out there and get to know everybody, even it was awesome. I feel like we bonded better than most other college teams.
Yeah, and how did you we got the stats. I think you'd be the first person to say you didn't shoot very well. Do you feel that did it have something to do with the ball, or were you not getting rhythm shots? We're not really. A lot of us didn't get to watch the games. I have no doubt. So I've seen all your highlights, man. I know you can shoot. Would you attribute it to anything?
I'm a person that's I'm low on excuses, but I can't beat myself too much over the fact that so I think honestly to shoot a day before a game, 2 days before, just go a couple of days without practicing, and that didn't help me as much, especially with the I know when season comes around I'm gonna have to get shots up days before the game, and I'm not worried about it for the future.
Yeah, I read that from some guys in the know, some guys that have played at higher levels than obviously I've ever played at, and they talked about that. They talked about there's a lot of shooters that they need to get up, shots every day. I think even Brad might have talked about it when he coached Phil Forte at Oklahoma State, that he was one of and Phil Forte is, I think, one of the best shooters in NCAA history, definitely in Oklahoma State's history. And he said that, like, Phil, if Phil didn't get up, a couple hundred shots day before a game, like it threw him all way out of whack. And obviously you guys did not get that experience over there. You got a lot of team bonding. But what was that like? You came away from that, like, I imagine you got some, I mean, obviously you guys are close, you're working out, but I imagine Spain probably added the opportunity for some new and better friendships. You bond with anybody in particular over there?
Everybody, the whole team is the whole team really just, I feel like it was all together. We rode jet skis, like it was just a for sure.
What about Brad? Was Brad in like a different light when like you're not seeing him practice and like you got some days off and I know he's a red wine guy, so was he a little bit more chill, a little bit more lax? You get to see more of his personality.
I mean, since the day I met Coach Brad, I find that he's just a bad coach and bad person.
What was you on the court, your highlight of the trip? Because I think for all of us, what was that like? Was it a 180?
Windmill.
Was it 180? Windmill? Was it the 180 windmill, or did anything else? Was there anything else that could have topped
that? Probably me diving if y'all can see it.
What's that?
I'm getting this nasty skull on the ball.
Oh man!
One of my hustles. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's part
a hustle. Hey.
That's my highlight of the trip.
There you go. You're getting motto points, right? Matto points, probably. Diving for diving for loose balls and stuff.
Sir.
So go ahead, Kev.
So now you're back in school. You guys aren't practicing now currently, correct?
No.
So what's like you're making the adjustment, man? You know, you're going from high school to college. What's the first week been like, man? How you holding up?
I'm staying on top of my assignments. I've had plenty of assignments first week, I say. So I think I'm holding up pretty well, honestly. Yeah. Still, but so far, I think I'm not procrastinating on it too much.
Right on. But you're staying in that weight room though, right?
For sure, always. Anytime.
Your progress pics for the Body by Fletch progress pics came out after we had you on the show the first time. My man, you putting on some muscle, my dude.
Sir, I'm trying. I've been skinny my whole life, so my bones.
Hey, skinny's a good thing in basketball. Let's be real here. Like, very few guys can be really bulky and play, but hey, that lean muscle mass you're putting on looks good, and it's going to help you in that Big Ten season, my man.
For sure.
One thing I got to mention before we let you go is your thoughts on adding Kansas to your preseason, man. You excited?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. And not even just to play against them, just a very historic school of basketball, but just me and Amani went out to there in Hawaii, so we know I was just how. So I just wanted to shout out that I feel like that's to make play and help Maui out and get money to donate to them.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think it's going to be really cool for you guys, especially you and Amani, and Nico's had the opportunity to see it. But you're going to see a full throat, full loud scale State Farm Center very early on in your career. And normally, don't get me wrong, the fans are going to be out for your first couple games, but and obviously you're going to get it when Marquette comes to town. But you're going to get to see what that place can look like in an October setting. Like, that's going to be pretty dope. You're going to get a real college basketball, as much as you can get for right off the bat. That's really cool. I'm excited for you guys.
Not for sure. I am too. I can't.
Before we let you go, I just wanted to let people know, as much as we would really like to have him on more often, I think just because I think me and Kev agree, we definitely want him focusing on his schooling and just getting acclimated. And with the season starting up soon, having any other distractions other than ball, I don't want to do that. So we would love to have you on more, Dre, but I feel like that's the best thing to do. And I think I feel like that's just the wise thing to do. And, but no matter what, brother, you're number one right here. We always support you. We believe in you. You know what? And you're going to do great things at Illinois. And I can't wait to watch you in person.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been so impressed with who you are as a young man and the way that you treated us, and then I know that's gonna roll over to the court. I love the chip on your shoulder, man. Don't ever lose that, dude. We got to
Yes,
find
sir.
ways to make it work. Yep. The Tom Brady's done it. Pat Mahomes does it. All the great ones got a chip, man. Don't lose that chip, and let it fuel you in the right way, and just keep grinding, my man. Appreciate you so much for coming on.
Yes, sir. We'll do, guys.
Yes, right.
See, buddy. Stay on them studies, man.
We'll do. Peace out.
All right.
Peace out, Jack. What an awesome young man, dude. And I am super appreciative of him for jumping back on. He gave me his word he would. And I can tell you, a lot of people don't love that he came on the podcast the first time. Didn't want him to come on a second time. But he believes, he loves the show. He believes in what me and you are doing, and he appreciated us letting him come on. So I felt like it's the best thing to do to just leave any drama or baloney off social media, get him away from that. And so just wanted to mention that. He's a great guy.
You know what? People are going to throw shade wherever they want to throw shade. Haters are going to hate, and that's fine. I just think the world of the young man. He's a world-class athlete, and he's got he's had a challenging past, and and some people are going to throw stones in his directions, and Lord knows you've been the receiver of those as well. So there's probably a little bit of a bonding opportunity there. But the friend of the program, and you could see what a first-class young man he is. And I just, like I said, I don't want him to lose that chip on the shoulder. Nothing's gonna come easy for him. He's gonna have to go work and grind and find his way. But I'm telling you, man, this when I hear people say that he's the best athlete on the team, and like they say Sincere is a good athlete, this guy's different. It's going to be something that's going to be really exciting for us Illinois fans. Yeah. And he's already proud of a hustle play scar. You just gotta love that. And you saw it, man. There was dudes getting on the floor in the videos that we were able to see. So excited about that.
The only reason I mentioned that is because we were going to have him on throughout the year, and he was excited to do that. Maybe even one time a month just to talk about the progression of him this season and learning things. But I talked to his mom and I talked to him, and he doesn't need any other distractions for people to constantly berate him or his mother on social media. If that's just people are just, and even if it's Purdue folks, just leaving it be. We appreciate him coming on. We know, he's a supporter of keeping it orange and blue, and we appreciate him. So just let that young man enjoy his freshman season. So.
Well, and not only that, I mean, there is a level I know a lot of coaches deny freshmen media availability. Yeah. And that's because what he's going through is a really difficult transition, man. He is probably more acclimated than most because of the overtime elite experience that he did get to go through, is that he was away from home, that he was, and he was around guys who were, some of those guys were getting paid, if my knowledge is correct, on the OTE. So he might be a little bit more experienced from a basketball side of being away and really focusing on it. But at the same time, you're going to add in the school, and all these young men at the University of Illinois, we take great pride in this, are at a world-class institution. And the academics are a must if you want to stay on the basketball floor. And so there's a challenge to that. And I agree with your assessment. We'd love to have him back on at spring break, winter break, whenever winter break, they don't really have it in basketball. I mean, Coleman already told us, guys don't get time off, but we'll get him in the summer we'll get him in spring or summer next year, and that'll be awesome. But look forward to great things from that young man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So real quick before we get into Toledo and stuff, we got Lunkers with Lucas Go Illini, DGL's a GOAT, Jeffrey G, DGL starting point guard by league play. We all got his back. Dana's going to show folks too. Sincere will not be denied playing time. I think there's going to be a lot of that, being truthful to all that stuff. But we're gonna switch gears in here. We're excited for that, and we'll talk way more about that once October hits. But I think for the next 5-6 weeks, it's time for some Illini. It's time Illini football. You know what I mean? I think,
let's go. Let's go.
So it's week 1 is here. We enjoyed a week 0, and we won't talk about week 0's picks. We'll talk about that on Fade to Deuce, Kev. It might have been a rough week 0 for one of us on the show. Just that goes to show you how, college sports, even, NFL sports in general, and putting some dollars on it, making your wagers can hurt you a little bit and burn you some. So,
well, yeah, and we'll talk more about that on Fade the Deuce when we run the episode on Wednesday night. Love to see all you there. We'd love to talk about the picks. We've got some upcoming picks for this next week as well. But hey, man, there's a reason why you see people and you see liars that pop up and say, "Oh, I hit 70% of my bets." That's a lie. Like real great cappers, guys who get paid for people to tail them on their picks, hitting like the 55 to 56%. So it's hard. It's not easy.
All right, Kev. Well, week 1, it's here. We got QB1, Luke Altmaier. I think we've known that.
Yep.
I think with Toledo, did you see the line against Toledo? It came out 9, right? Didn't it come out 9?
Yeah, initially it started at 10.5. I think it's moved down to 9. That means people are betting on Toledo, so it's interesting.
Okay, yeah, I think, as you've mentioned too, I think there can be some fool's gold in that. Like people maybe purposely bring it down some, even if maybe by mid to end of the week it might be back up closer to 10. I think it will be.
Well, I think from the outsider's perspective, and listen, that's not being fueled by a lot of Illini or Toledo homers, right? That's not really who Vegas is counting on to move the line there. But from the outside perspective, there's still a lot of question marks around this Illinois football team. Questions that I think those of us who are close to the program are more optimistic on than others. Number one being, just like you said, QB1. Who is Luke Altmaier? We haven't seen that many snaps. We don't really know. Number 2 is, what do they do to replace Chase Brown? And then probably number 3 is you have to replace an entire secondary from the best defense in the nation from a scoring standpoint a year ago. And from that outside perspective, people aren't that high on Illinois. However, I think that we all look at it and say, all right, Luke Altmaier is a supremely talented kid who held his own in a bowl game when he was thrown in the mix at Baylor. He was in a situation, from what I've heard at Mississippi, that it was very unfavorable for him. He really didn't like it, to the point that Trey Petty is not even being swayed by an offer from Ole Miss, and he's staying with Illinois. Trey Petty was Altmaier's backup as a freshman and is Illinois' stud quarterback recruit coming in next year. Had a huge game out of Starkville, Mississippi, right down the street from Mississippi State. It's a great pickup for Illinois. So I think we're more high on Altmaier. We're more high on the running back room this year at I wouldn't say at this point, but going forward. Last year, it really was Chase Brown, and we were counting on Josh McCray. We got about 10% of Josh McCray last year. Reggie Love stepped up and was fine, but he wasn't quite Chase Brown. And then we all know that the entire secondary has been removed, but I think people forget about how damn good that front 7 is. That's going to put a ton of pressure on the quarterback and not put that secondary on the island. Last but not least, when it comes to secondary, and Ryan Walters' defense, Walters is almost exclusively a man-to-man guy. I don't believe that's going to be Aaron Henry's motto, especially with some young, inexperienced guys. And I think Illinois is going to throw some defenses, some coverages out there that, frankly, are going to confuse Toledo. And so I'll talk more about it on Wednesday. I think that line is short. So I think Illinois will cover.
Yeah. To me too, it all boils down to this. I think there's a lot of unknowns for both teams as of now, but I think what you can look at is the returning pieces for both teams.
Yes.
And that's what we do know. So that's what we have to go off of.
And they have a returning quarterback, and they're the returning MAC champions, and they're kind of on a high too. So,
and the only reason I feel like Illinois, covers, and well, this is definitely the toughest test that Toledo is going to have all year. I just don't see how they can contain the front 7 of Illinois. It's just Big Ten teams weren't able to do it, and I think that's just going to be way too much for that offensive line, which, by the way, is where they have some transition. They lost a couple key, leaders and seniors on that offensive line. So they have their depth issues, and more of like new pieces and faces are coming to the offensive line. So, and that just fits right into Illinois' hands. So I like the Illinois defensive line, front 7 against Toledo's offensive line. And while they do have a really good quarterback, Finn, I think that's going to play into Illinois' hands. I think also, too, with the having guys like Taz Nicholson still in the secondary, just the things that we're hearing from guys like Scott and Strain, Miles Scott at safety, and Nicario Harper, and then Clayton Bush and Demetrius Hill, who we had on, just different type of dudes, just different cats. I think that's just going to be too much for Toledo. I think if Toledo scores more than 20, I think that'll be a shocker. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm excited for it to get here, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, Finn is a really athletic quarterback, a really mobile quarterback, which will give Illinois a very good look and some preparation for Kansas the following week. He was a little bit erratic. He threw 12 picks last year, completed less than 60% of his passes. Yes, we do have a young, inexperienced secondary, but this is still we have a lot of the same philosophies, a little bit different. I already told you that, but I think we'll throw some things that will confuse Finn out there. But this team led the nation in interceptions last year, and we didn't lead the nation in interceptions simply because the guys we had back there were all world about picking off passes. I mean, I think Spoon only had 3, right? The reason why
Sidney Brown, Jartavius Martin, and even Kendall Smith are showing themselves to be pretty good players of late.
They are. But there were quite a few of those picks that were generated by the law firm and by Sid Coleman, by Gabe Yakis, by Alec Bryant, by Canelo Luga. Like there's guys that made some of those opportunities for him. I'm thinking about the pick in the Iowa game. I'm thinking about the pick in the Nebraska game. I'm thinking about some picks in the Northwestern game. Like some of that stuff was made by our front 7, and I don't think that's going to change. And I think we have guys back there who can catch the ball. Heck, we got a converted wide receiver. He can catch the ball back there. So
and Matthew Bailey's a name I didn't mention because he's a guy that's going to be there by at least Penn State, I think. So he won't be against Toledo or Kansas, but it's crazy to say he's a big piece. He had some major success last year.
Yeah, it's the same front 7 that made Brennan Armstrong look like a guy who didn't belong in Division I football last year. And Brennan Armstrong threw for 4,000 yards the year before, and NC State's, patting themselves on the back for getting him as a transfer. Heck, I wanted him. But that pressure was so much to him by the end of the game, he couldn't throw the ball straight. It was nuts. Now, they had a little bit of a revamped offensive line. Toledo does return a pretty solid offensive line. So Toledo's strength is going to be offense, where I think Illinois is going to have to dictate and change the game, and we haven't talked about this yet, is how we impact the game offensively. And there's some things about Toledo that are very appealing to us. Toledo's like the opposite of us on defense. They're almost like complete opposites of us all the way around, actually. They return a really strong secondary and like one linebacker. That's about it that they have coming back on their defense that are from a difference maker standpoint.
So what you're saying is Illinois should be able to pound the ball for sure.
And with the new clock rules, with the clock not stopping on the first down, look at what Notre Dame did to Navy on the first possession. Anybody that watched that game, it was like a 7-minute drive of them just pounding the ball. Yes, I expect Illinois in its litany of ball carriers back there to all tote the rock multiple times. I expect Illinois to pound the ball early and wear down Toledo. Yes, absolutely.
And, when I say that too, it's that's okay because Illinois, I think, is going to have a good enough offensive line to do that. But also, too, I think Illinois' wide receivers, as good as Toledo's cornerbacks might be, are really going to surprise people. So you're going to see teams that may try and stack the line, put 7, 8 guys up there for sure and try to say, we're going to stop these big backs, because you're going to see McCray some, you're going to see Caden Fegan and even maybe Jordan Anderson a little bit. And you're going to see people try to stuff the line and say, Altmaier is going to have to beat us. And I think there's wide receivers now on this team besides the Bryants and the Washingtons that made people pay, the Isaiah Williams. Man, Illinois is going to have 4 or 5 guys out there who can make plays.
Yeah, I think we're going to have probably 4 guys. We'll see some form of it start to get like major playing time. There's 3 guys probably in the lead for this that can take the top off of defense that we kind of lacked, that we were kind of hoping that Deuce Spann would be that guy, and then he transferred to Florida State, obviously. And that's Malik Elzy, Sean Miller, and Ian Pugh. And then last but not least, a guy who's making some headway here is Ashton Hollins. Like he's 6'5". Pugh is 6'3", 6'4". Miller is 6'3", 6'4". Elzy's 6'2". All those guys are fast. Elzy's probably the closest thing we've seen to Aurelius Ben since Aurelius Ben. He's 6'2", 210 pounds, and has some great run after the catch. Going to break tackles from smaller secondary guys. So I do think, and Altmaier, from what I heard, throws a really good deep ball, most likely a better deep ball than Tommy DeVito. So yes, I do think that Lunny will be more willing to go vertical on teams if they start to give us some press coverage on the outside and stack in the box. I actually look for it early, but I do think that Illinois is going to be able to control the game on the ground. That being said, Altmaier should also have some time to throw unless they're getting some blitz packages, and I'd like to see us utilize the screen game a little bit.
So just a little bit of breaking down the matchup because it's important. So DeQuan Finn last year had 12 interceptions. Okay, so the key to Illinois' success, it's not just, Illinois' got a big front seven. Okay. Yeah, they're going to put pressure on him. He's going to elude and get away from him.
Yes, he is.
Sometimes. It's his decision-making when he's scrambling that really hurt him last year. He only had 2 interceptions the year before that. He had 12 last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a big, big jump. And when, I say how important is DeQuan Finn for the team, he accounted for 51% of Toledo's offense. 2,270 yards passing, 632 yards rushing. And so he also scored 32 of the team's total 54 touchdowns. So he is a big – if you make him scramble, you make him make tough decisions, Illinois could run away with the game. We haven't given a major score update of yet, but we will before we get off here. But I know that Illinois – is taking this game very seriously because Toledo is probably the best team in the MAC. But again, even saying that, it's a MAC school. Illinois is a team looking to win the Big Ten West. Illinois needs to assert its dominance because they will be dominating the line of scrimmage. Even as good as Toledo's offensive line is, maybe in years past, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, you'd say that Toledo offensive line is going to be able to stick with this Illinois defense, but not with having 3 or 4 guys that could see their name picked. And I say this, with Randolph, Newton, Yakis, and Coleman. Yakis isn't eligible to get drafted this year, but I know if he was, he would get drafted. So
I believe that could be the case. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4 guys in that front there that could be drafted this year. Toledo will never see that again the rest of the year. So this is just something different. I expect them to keep Toledo under 17 points. And I think Illinois' key to success, obviously, limit DeQuan Finn.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you look at Finn and what he did last year. I mean, I don't think Toledo had a win over a winning program last year. They lost to Ohio State, they lost to San Diego State, lost to Buffalo, they lost to 5-7 Western Michigan. He put up really good numbers against Ball State. Well, Ball State was a 5-7 team. He put up good numbers. He had a remarkable game against Kent State where he rushed for 87 yards, threw for 260, and 6 touchdowns. He has many touchdown passes and completions. That's a 5-7 Kent State team. I think there's a little bit of stat padding that went on. They did beat Liberty in the bowl game, but you never know what's going on in bowl games. So I'll give them credit for that bowl game. I think that what Toledo is going to face against Illinois, and I know this sounds like a homer thing, it's just I think they're going to see some things against us that's just not normal. And I do think Finn can run, and I do worry about – and I think you'll see some plays where he breaks contain and picks up a 15, 20-yard run on a 3rd down, and we're all like, oh. But I also think he's going to scramble out one time and take Barnes is just going to knock his block off. Like there's going to be aspects of that. We've got athletes all over the field on the defense. The key for this game for us is like we cannot turn the ball over a bunch on offense, and we've got to run the ball for 4.5 yards a carry, and I think we're going to do that.
Now with Finn, who are some of the main option is Jerjuan Newton. Okay.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Jerjuan Newton, right, guys? Who could that be?
It's Jimmy's brother.
Newton. That sounds right. Let's see. He is Johnny Newton's brother. So if you don't, so if you guys think that Illinois may not know much about this Toledo team, they know quite a bit about it because those brothers have talked and they talk about their years and they know those parents know who's what and what the strength is and who's so it's going to be interesting to me. I still think that plays into Illinois' hands because Toledo can know how really good and dominant the defensive line is, but that doesn't mean you can just put guys in front of them to stop them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if these guys are just better than you can try to game plan that, but then you got to stop, Yakis, double team Newton, right? Double Randolph. Right. Then you got, okay, well, who's on Coleman, right? Who's, all right, well, then who's stopping, Yakis?
Well, that's the thing of having two guys like Randolph and Newton that require so much attention. And that's something that Calvin Avery did such a good job of last year is that when he did get one-on-one matchups and a massive man that he is, he just took it over and he freed up stuff. That's why Isaac Darkangelo, who really played starter snaps about halfway through the season, led the team in tackles because there's all the things that are available there because you have to pay attention to so many other guys. And that did help Yakis get on the field and get some sacks. It is going to help Coleman get on the field and get some sacks because they are going to focus a lot on Johnny. And yeah, Jerjuan Newton, Johnny's I don't know. They're probably pretty close to the same age. It looks like.
I think. He's a year. I think he's a year younger. But so just to finish up with him, he was their leading receiver last year. He was second team All MAC. He had 9 touchdowns.
830 yards.
He had 15.7 yards a catch. He had a big, nearly 200-yard game against Ball State, and a big game against Ohio, the team that you saw give San Diego State a good run on yesterday. So, again, a team that Illinois is taking very seriously. The reason why Brett Bielema is calling them the MAC champs, he's not just saying Toledo. That's what – and as Kevin said earlier, I wanted to mention the offense because you had mentioned the defense of theirs being the real, going to be the weakness is that D-line. And inside their front seven is probably going to be the weakness of Toledo.
Yeah, and I think that I've said this a couple times in some other forums and here. I think the wrong way to try to beat Illinois, you can't stop the run against Illinois. It's going to be a poor way to stop Illinois. I still have a little bit of concern of the depth on the defensive line. I don't have a lot of concern from a depth from the 4 linebacker positions. I do have concern, like I said, a little bit there. So if we can keep Johnny and Keith fresh and on the field, off the field, and get him in there and get some 3 and outs early, that's where we're really. I think this is going to be a steamroll, like a steamroller that's coming at you. Like Illinois is going to control the ball. We're going to run the ball. We're going to pound it with our big backs and our massive offensive line. We have a massive offensive line. We've got big bodies up front. And what do big bodies do best? It's typically run block, road graders. And I think Getsky's going to get the start at right guard next to Chrysler. If he doesn't, it's Slaughter. Those are 2 massive men. And Chrysler's a massive man. Like the only guy that we have that's even remotely average or undersized would be Kreutz at the center position. And he's meaner than a junkyard dog.
He's meaner than your neighbor's Chihuahua, dude. So
he's an animal. And so there's that part that we're just going to try and push, and then on top of it, we've got big backs, multiple. We've got 3 backs that are the 240-pound range in McCray and Fagan and Anderson. And then we got Reggie Love, who's probably going to start, who's showed really well against Northwestern, showed really well against Mississippi State, was a borderline 4-star recruit, is a really good back. When you see him, he's really well put together. Got some great quickness. And then you got the speedy guy, the real change of pace, the Dave Meggett, if you will, and Aiden Lawfrey. I think that's where Illinois realizes its strength is going to be to take it to Toledo, and then we've got talent on the outside. So I think our offense is much better than most people will give credit for, and I don't think that Toledo is going to be able to score enough to stay with Illinois.
And you know what? What's interesting too is I think quietly guys like Kirk Herbstreit, you saw giving Illinois love, right?
Yeah, and the thing that was really interesting after he called Illinois' dark horse pick is they were going on to other teams and put some other things. And the host of the show, Reese Davis, he's like, that defensive line is something. And I was like, yeah, dude, that was really cool. He's like, so, and it is. And our front seven is really good. We'll have to see the way our secondary can hold up. You do worry about a young secondary when a quarterback breaks contain, and I wouldn't be surprised if Toledo gets a fluke yards or even a touchdown out of some kind of scramble mode, and one of our guys losing contain on a receiver. It could happen.
Those fluke things happen. So if we look at it, Illinois is over under 6.5. To me, we're not talking spreads as much, but to me that was that was like saying last year was like what, 4.5. To me, that was just easy money. I'm like, oh, that's okay. Hell, it might have been 3.5. I'm trying to remember. Maybe it was.
I don't know. Yeah. I had us at 5 and 7 or 6 and 6, so I was way wrong.
Hey, in my defense, at least I had us going to a bowl game. It was 6 and 6.
You did.
But it's like trying to get you to maybe bite and say, oh, they'll just make a bowl game. But I think nationally, there's a reasons that all those big BTN guys picked Illinois to pick the West, and you didn't hear a word about Illinois and any of those guys like Herbie. They kept their mouth closed until the first game day. You didn't see them on social media talking about Illinois. And then all of a sudden they're waiting. Illinois was picked 4th, right? Yeah. Well, where was all the outrage then? But now it's like, they're my dark horse. They're like, yeah, they could probably win 9 or 10 this year. It's like they waited till the start of the year to mention that. So I just found that interesting. I think, obviously me and you have been on the train for a while because we know what we're seeing in front of us. The whole culture has changed. The whole vibe has changed. And Kev, this is my segue to the final thing I want to talk about before we get to the final thought. And is Illinois, Kev, and something you might know about, has, let's see, expectation. And a wise man just wrote an article about that. And how about we talk about it for a few minutes, Kev? And if you guys haven't seen it, Kevin Ducey's journalistic as an adult, because he did some in high school, debut article just came out, 200columns.com. So anybody here who is who subscribes, follows all that good stuff on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, get on 200columns.com or check us out on Twitter, and the article's there. Illinois has expectation, Kev. And how is that, man? How do you feel about that to a degree, to finally have a year where it's been a while, we were expecting something from these guys?
Yeah, I think this is the first year where we're having real expectations. And I said this and I'm talking real expectations since probably 2008. You can go back to the Nate Shieldhouse junior and senior year. We went back-to-back bowl games, but I don't know that we walked into that season thinking we could compete for a Big Ten title. And I do think that most of the fandom that is out there believes Illinois has a good chance to win the West. And if you win the West, you got a chance to play for the Big Ten championship game. If you play for the Big Ten championship game, you have an opportunity to win a Big Ten title. So this is the first time I think that we've walked into a season feeling like this since 2008. Maybe 2009, because we might have thought it was like the 99. The 99 team surprised everybody, goes to the Micron PC Bowl. The 2000 team stubs its toe a little bit, and then the 2001 team is the team that goes to the Sugar Bowl. I think maybe people thought that might have been like 2007, 2008 to 2009. So somewhere in that time frame, 2008, 2009 was the last time Illinois had this kind of expectations. And those teams, those 08, 09 teams, they had 14 NFL guys on the roster. I think there's probably that number here. There's probably that number on the team last year when you look at the number of guys that we have in the NFL just from that team a year ago. The challenge that I think that we're going to face as a fandom, as a program, is We are a browbeaten fan base. We are a fan base that has had the ball pulled out from us so many times. The 2008 team loses a game at Western Michigan that basically put the nail in the coffin of our bowl hopes, as we had 2 final games against Ohio State and Northwestern. So we went from a team that surprisingly went to the Rose Bowl, returned a bunch of starters, returned a bunch of talent, and did nothing with it. And I think that our fan base is just so ready for the ball to be pulled out, the rug to be pulled out from underneath us, that I truly believe that this team needs a good start. I think a 2-0 start for this team could be the difference between us having listen, I'm gonna stand here and tell you this right now. I think the honest to God floor for this team, unless we have some catastrophic injuries, is an 8-4 season. I think that's the floor. And to say that for an Illinois football team is something we haven't said since the late 80s, early 90s, right? And if we stub our toe in one of the first 2 games, we're playing 2 pretty good teams, a MAC champion and a Kansas team that's coming in with expectations for the first time in forever as well. I don't want our fandom to just like go cry in their beer and not show up for this team. We saw it last year. We were on the verge of a Big Ten West championship. We had almost a full house against Michigan State. We were 7-1, and we stubbed our toe. We lost a tough game in some weird weather. And then the next week, we had 45,000 people in the stands. And don't tell me because the Purdue game was cold. I don't want to hear it. You're from Central Illinois. You're from Northern Illinois. You're from Illinois. You're used to cold. We're hardy people, dude. Like, that's what we are. It is no big deal for us to slap on a coat, a stocking cap, and go to a game. The fact is the fans gave up. Fans gave up when we were 7-2, and if we beat Purdue, we're going to the Big Ten West championship game. And our fans threw in the towel because we are so used to like what happening. I'm not saying that 15,000 fans in the stands more against Purdue would have made a difference, but it might have. It might have caused the false start on a key 3rd down. It might have done some more. So we need to fill that stadium. And the difference here, is Brett Bielema, the CEO of the Illinois football program, is preparing this team with detail, and he is exact in his science. He is how he's executing and what they're doing. Go listen to his interview with Dave Revson on the Tailgate Show. This is a guy who knows exactly what he wants to do with this football program. And even if we do stub our toe, if we start the season 1-2, which is completely possible, this team is still going to have a very successful season because we have a lot of talent and we have a really good coach and we've got a great coaching staff. And
1-2 doesn't mean anything in the scheme of winning the West, just so people know.
Absolutely. It doesn't hurt anything. You could go 1-3 and win the West.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if all we need to do is roll back to Northwestern 3 or 4 years ago. I think they were 1-3 in the first 4 and ended up finishing 8-4 and won the West. So it's possible. And I you know what though? I think this team is going to thrive on that, and they know what they left on the table last year. They know what they left on the table last year, and I think that 1-1. While I don't feel like that's what happens, I don't feel like even a loss to Kansas would deter these guys to play and show up and beat a Penn State team at home. So,
but at the same time, I think a 2-0 start gets 60,000 people in the stadium.
100%.
I think it's a first sellout in a long time. You got big noon kickoff. I think that place will be rocking and rolling. I love what they did to get fans early. $3 domestic beers, $3 Trulies, 90 minutes to 30 minutes before game time to get your butt in the stadium, because I know, man, I've done it. I know I love to sit out, in the lots and push it to the last minute and miss kickoff. Like, we want all of our fans there for that kickoff to start. I do think 2-0 in that crowd. I mean, dude, trust me. Like, come on, man. You are Johnny Newton. You are Devon Witherspoon. You are Sidney Brown, Chase Brown, and you come out in the Purdue game, 15,000 empty seats. That's 25% of the stadium empty. You see that, dude. I don't think it has. It affects the team. They come out and they see a full house, like something they've never seen it. They haven't
seen it. And you know what? The last time we saw it against
North
Carolina, I was there, man. So I know it was kind of wild to see, but no matter what, big noon kickoff's coming against Penn State. So if we have 5 or 10,000 fans that don't want to show up because they lose to Kansas, nothing you can do about it. But your article would hit the nail on the head. So I thought it was.
And I've got a little bit of experience doing that, but it's been a long time. I also wrote for the Parkland College paper. I covered the basketball team, girls and boys basketball team. Brooke Burke was a star basketball player for Parkland back then. Local kid, she was a great hooper. Wrote an article on her, interview with her. It was pretty cool. But here's my really long-winded way of saying, hey, if anybody has any feedback or anything maybe they'd like me to write about, man, hit me up on a line I do. So I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the article. If you think it's good, please repost it, tweet it, share it with your friends. But any constructive criticism that you want to give, feedback, I truly believe is a gift, and I'd love to hear it. And then anything like maybe they want us to write about, I'd love to give. I've got some ideas. We got some other articles that are going to be coming, but love to hear it. And we're hoping that maybe this could give us the opportunity to be on the sideline for the Kansas game. That'd be really cool. Get some interviews with some players and coaches after the game, and we can get that up on the site as well.
Oh yeah, awesome, man. I'll be retweeting, Kev. I know you'll be retweeting your article tomorrow. First thing in the morning, get that out there. So now, Kev, real quick, score prediction, Toledo, before we get to final thoughts. I'll let you lead off.
Yeah, I'm going to do two things. It's going to extend the show a little bit here. I'm going to give a score prediction here, and then I'm going to give who I think is player of the game on both sides of the ball.
Beautiful. I like that. We'll add that to this. So go ahead.
Yeah. So actually let me do my score prediction, and then I don't want to steal your. If you choose a guy, I want to choose somebody different. So you can go first on your guy here. So I'm going to say I think Illinois wins this game 31-13. I know some picks have changed over time. I think Illinois wins the game 31-13.
All right. I'm going to say Illinois wins 35-14. So.
Hey, I'm going to say something here. I've talked about it before. In Illinois' last 21 football games, they've given up over 24 points twice to Michigan State and Iowa. And Iowa was boosted on, I think they had a pick six and a kick return. And the Michigan State was boosted by a punt in the back. So, Illinois doesn't give up 24 or more points to Big Ten level opponents. I don't see Toledo being able to score in the 20s. And if you can't score in the 20s against us with Toledo's defense, you can't beat us.
All right. So let's go ahead and put this in. I'll say offensive and defensive player of the game. I'll start out. Offensively, I'm just, as much as I want to go Josh McCray, I'm going to go Luke Altmaier. I think Luke's going to have a show out game against a Toledo team that's going to stack the box and try to stop the run, and they're going to try to force a guy who hasn't had a ton of experience getting to be the guy, so they're going to try to put it in his hands. And I think you're going to get to see how good our wide receiver set really is. So I got Luke Altmaier having a big game. So
I'm going to go under the radar a little bit and kind of where you were leading with your first thought with Josh McCray. Josh McCray can catch the ball really well, by the way, guys. I'm gonna take Reggie Love. I think Reggie Love cracks the century mark for the Illini, and I think he gets in the end zone, and I even think he catches a couple passes. So I'm gonna take Reggie Love.
All right. Defensive player of the game. It's like a buffet, man. It's like, let's see, man, which one looks good. It's a smorgasbord. To me, it's a toss up with which one you want to go with. I'll just go ahead and I'm going to say Gabe Jacobs. I'm going to say he's going to have a big game on the edge. I'm going to say they're going to be focusing a lot on the guys in the middle, and they're not going to be as worrying about him. And he's going to make some plays and disrupt a lot of stuff. He's not going to get any double teams, at least that first quarter or first half. I think by the halftime, they're going to realize what problems they really have. They might even want to raise the white flag. But I got Gabe Jacobs.
All right, so I've been going back and forth here. You said Jacobs. I was leaning Coleman, but that's kind of the same position, just on the other side.
That's okay though. We didn't rehearse this, so it's fine.
I know. Hold on. And then I also love a guy. I think Coleman gets talked about not nearly enough. The other guy I think doesn't get talked about nearly enough is Tariq Barnes,
Okay.
and he's a really good football player. But I'm going to go with this is a heart pick, not necessarily a head pick, but you certainly can't be dumb when you pick this guy. I'm taking big number 88, Keith Randolph. I think Keith Randolph has all the skills, all the abilities to be and is an all-world defensive tackle. And everybody talks about the defensive line, but then it's Johnny Newton. And I think that Keith Randolph comes out, has an all-world game, has a couple TFLs, maybe a sack, maybe a forced fumble or something like that, makes a big play in the game. And I say that because I had the opportunity before the bragging rights game, not last year, but the year before last. Keith was there. Isaiah Williams was there. And, of course, Isaiah was getting all the attention. Of course, all the offensive players did. And I talked to Keith for probably 15 to 20 minutes. And he's a super, super dude. I'm a big fan. I look forward to 88 having a big game.
Hey, you can't go wrong with that. Again, like I said, it's a smorgasbord. So, Kev, final thoughts. I'll go ahead and go first, and I'll let you finish. Still not too late. Let's fill up Toledo. Let's get her done. We can. I'd like to see at least 50,000, Kev, week 1. I think it's possible. I don't know what the ticket sales look like right now. I wish they'd come out and say like exacts, but I'd be shocked if it's anything less than 50 with all this hype and all the, I think fans know how much talent's on this team. And I know there's a lot of excitement. So I would hope we're having at least around 50,000, but I know there's still plenty of tickets left. So go get those, please. I mean, what else are you doing next
on Saturday night?
What else are you next on a 3-day weekend? What else are you doing next Saturday night that you couldn't do Sunday or that you couldn't do Monday? I mean, I got to have a cookout. You could do it Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no excuse, Illinois fans. Let's go. Show up.
I think being a Saturday night game, I think on a Labor Day weekend, I think you actually might get some more travel in from Chicago and St. Louis than expected. I think we get over 55K. I love that the game's at 6:30. Other than the fact I got to wait all day for the game, I think about Oklahoma here. They're kicking off their season at 11 a.m. on Saturday, and it's a projected high of 103.
Yeah.
So that second half is going to be absolutely brutal for the fans in attendance there. It's going to be hot on Saturday in Central Illinois, but a game starting at 6:30 is a lot better for that. I think that'll help. I hope we can get a lot of people in the stands. You know what? I've always had my final thoughts recently because we weren't doing stuff in between the lines about what was going on between the lines with Illinois golf, but I'm just nah. I mean, Steve Stricker finished top 10. That was great. Tommy Cool had a great showing in the Canadian tour. Awesome. But dude, this is all about Toledo, dude. It's all about stomping a mud hole in the Rockets, dude. I am so fired up. Football season is upon us. Fade the Deuce Wednesday night. Come check it out. Had some great picks there. We will pick some big games. We'll pick some Thursday games because we got Thursday football this week. We got Nebraska against Minnesota, Florida, and Utah. So we got some big games coming out early. And this weekend, there's not a lot of like good ranked versus ranked teams. But my goodness, we got a great one on Sunday night. This is a great weekend for college football, and they are giving us a nice little cap to the weekend with LSU and Florida State, 2 top 10 teams. I'm so excited to be flipping back and forth between game day and big.
Oh man, I know.
And you know what, dude? For the first time in quite a while, Ryan, they're gonna talk about our Illini on both those shows.
Oh, they're gonna force them to.
Yeah,
Illinois play is going to force them to.
I don't think we were, and I do that. Brett Bielema has incredible media savvy. He's doing things to get us in front of those prognosticators. He's got sway. He's got pull in this industry. Though both those programs will talk about us because of Brett Bielema. I don't know if we were even mentioned before we played Wyoming last year. I was on a guy's golf trip in Wisconsin, so I couldn't tell you. But no, I'm super excited for this weekend. That's all there is.
And just to finish real quick, our sponsor. They're still keeping an orange and blue T-shirts available. Check it out. hometownhypeapparel.com. 217-278-0120. Promo code orange and blue. 10% off your first order. Come on, get it. All right, that'll do it.
One last thing, Ryan. Anybody who commented on the show tonight is going to be thrown into a drawing. Anybody who retweets any of our stuff this week, thrown into a drawing for 2 free tickets to the Toledo.
Yep, yes. And actually, we're going to be picking a winner. We're picking a winner, I'd say, and we're going to announce it on Fade.
Fade the
Yeah, we're
Deuce.
going to announce it on Fade the Do. So this is another chance to retweet this, and we'll talk about it. We'll post it on social medias. That your name is going to be tossed random. We're going to count them up. I'm going to count them up. Give me a good hour. I'm going to put all the names in there, and we're going to.
And then there's a randomizer online. You pump them in there and it pops out. But dude, hey, if you're interested, if you want tickets, even put it, repost the tweet, repost the X, whatever you want to call it,
Yep.
and say, I want the tickets, man. We'll give you 2 entries saying if you say I want the tickets.
Yeah, exactly. So just follow Kev at Illini Deuce and me at 200 Columns Rye. So that'll do it. Swap me out.
ILL.
I and I.